Vengo a cantarles, señores, de un hombre muy valiente. Él viene a proteger y servir a los residentes. Su nombre está mi Rodella, el consentido de la gente.
Hello and welcome once again to another episode of ¿Qué pasó? Again, I want to thank you guys for joining us. I really appreciate you. And I do want to do a couple of shout outs again. If you or someone that you'd like for me to give a shout out to, let us know. You can send it to us on my mailing address. It'll be posted, or you can send it to us through YouTube, TikTok, or Facebook. Let us know. We appreciate it. Any donations that you want to make, we appreciate it, because doing a podcast is expensive. Although I feel that what's really important is this story be told and that people know what happened. I don't believe for a second that this injustice would ever be overturned. I don't believe that. But what I do believe is people need to understand exactly what happened. And I thank you for joining us. Once again, Nancy, thanks for coming and being my guest. Do you remember where we left off?
Yeah. First of all, your stories are very compelling. And I've heard the stories, probably numerous times, and those stories have never changed. But you did leave off, I believe, with Arandita.
Oh, yeah. And let me say this. It's interesting that you say that, because in a text that I received just this morning, the text was about the podcast and how it was something that they enjoyed and they thought was good. And the last part of the comment was there's three truths. There's their truth, there's your truth, and then there's the truth. In this case, Nancy, there's about 5 or 6 truths. And I say that because you're right. My story has never changed. It doesn't deviate one bit. But the victim in this case gave several versions of the truth in court. Anyhow, so we were talking about Arandita. So let me say this. Aranda was a feared domino player, man. The guy was just, he was incredibly good. And I'm sure he is. And I'm sorry. I had kind of got ahead of myself. I do want to send out a few shout outs. Once again, to my good friend Flavio Thomas in Rio Arriba City, Texas. ¿Qué pasó? How are you? Chalando. I hope you're enjoying yourself and your time out and con su familia. And I'm very happy for you, Thomas, that you're finally able to join your family where you do belong. I wanna send a shout out to my very good friend Jody Luger. Jody, I hope you're listening out there somewhere, and I hope life is good to you. Anyhow, so Aranda made a big difference for me in prison, and I'll get to that story in a minute. But I do want to share a little bit about his father. So his father was one of the original cartel members, and so originally the way this started, when I say this, I'm talking about the cartel, is this was during World War II, and there was a shortage of tires and other things here in the United States, and that was what they started bringing in, tires and other things that there was a shortage of. Well, Domingo found that in bringing in tires and whatever else, if he brought in a little marijuana, it added up. and he found that there was some money to be made. And he made his money, and he thought that it was enough to move to Portales and live a life that he always dreamed of. Well, it didn't take long for him to go through that money, so he decided to go back and take up where he had left off. Well, this happened a couple of times, and then when he went back for the third time, I believe, the person that had kind of taken over wasn't happy with him coming back. The long story short, and I'm telling you right now, there's a lot of details that I'm not sharing because I want those to be in my book. So if I shared all the details, then there would be nothing for me to write about. And I think in those details, they say the devil is in the details, and so I'm keeping some of those details out, and they'll be in my book. Anyhow, Domingo Aranda was called to a meeting, and I'm going to leave some of the details out. Long story short, he shows up at this meeting in the middle of nowhere, and there's a trench that was dug out, and he obviously wasn't comfortable with it, but being the man that he was, he got out of his truck and he talked to the people and it didn't take him long to realize that trench had been dug for him. So he made an effort to escape by foot, and he was shot in the back, and he was drugged and thrown in the trench, and there was green wood piled up on top of him. They threw gas in it, and they lit it up. A tough story for to listen to. It's even hard to talk about it, but the stories on you can look at it. You can look at the story on the internet, and there's even corridos made out to Domingo Aranda. So, having said that, let me get back to Norberto Aranda. So we got to spending a lot of time together, and then he lived just across the hall from me, a little ways off. So we were constantly spending time. When I got to Texarkana, to Seagoville, I apologize. When I got to Seagoville, and by the way, Seagoville is, it seems like it's about 15 minutes out of east of Dallas. Anyhow, when I got to Seagoville, I reopened my store, and business was so good in Seagoville that I couldn't keep everything I needed in one locker, and Arandita was quick to tell me, use my locker. And I asked him, well, where are you going to put your stuff? He says, I don't have anything, and what I have I can hang in my laundry bag. And he did that for me. I would fill his locker up every week with whatever sold at commissary, whatever I was selling, and of course, whenever we were playing dominoes, we'd enjoy from the fruits of our labor. We'd have a soda on ourselves. And let me tell you, Nancy, out here we take a lot for granted, and until you lose your freedom, you don't realize what else goes with that freedom. So we found pleasure in some of the smallest things. Anyhow, so what happened one day was I had been moved from a cell to a day room, and this was I wish I could remember the name of the counselor. And let me tell you, I think I've said this in a prior episode. Those people, and I'm talking high percentage, 90+%, those people, when I say those people, I'm talking about the counselors, I'm talking about the case managers, and I'm talking about the unit managers. Those people are not there to help you succeed. No way, no how. There's an exception, obviously, but the rule is those people do nothing to help you prepare to get out. They do everything to make their job easier, and that doesn't translate to doing their job. So I had some words with one of the counselors, and he had me moved to a day room. In a day room, these facilities, first of all, let me say this: these facilities were built in the 40s, and they were built to hold Japanese. It was during the time that we were at war, and they were gathering people of Japanese descent, and that's where they kept them. So these are old buildings, and they weren't built but for smaller stature people. And when they were built back then, they had day rooms. These day rooms were meant for them to spend time together, watch television, maybe sit down and play cards or dominoes. But BOP in their infinite wisdom found that by taking out those tables and stuff, they could fill it with bunks and they could hold more inmates. And in the federal, the incarceration system and the incarceration in the federal system, it's all about money. Has nothing to do with rehabilitation. In the system, there's no effort to rehabilitate you. Every class that they offer is in most of them, I'm not saying all, but most of these classes are just an opportunity for somebody to make money. Anyhow, let me continue there. I had a thought, and hopefully I don't lose it. But so this counselor had me moved to a day room, and in the day room there's 14 bunks, and of course it's prison isn't an easy place to live, and living with somebody else is hard. But when you multiply that times 14, it's rough. So that's why they moved me to the day room. But it wasn't a problem. I had already acclimated myself. I had adjusted, and I knew enough people that I knew where I could be comfortable. I knew who I could be comfortable around, so I'm in this day room, and I lock horns with the leader of the Aryan Circle, and it didn't take long for it to turn bad, not at all. So what happened on this particular day is, and again, I'm the whole story, but I'm going to keep some of the details for my book. So I had problems with the leader of the Aryan Circle, and Aranda came to my rescue. And out of that, let me tell you what happened. That leader, 2 weeks later, was transferred from that compound. So Aranda, although Aranda did not run with anyone, he had, they believed in him. They knew who his father was. So therefore they knew who he was. And I saw it. I would see it. I would see people come in, and they would go pay him homage. They would thank him. They would show their appreciation. And Aranda's a very humble man. He tried to avoid that, and but I could see. I could see what was going on. So forever I've been a big fan of Arandita's. In another case, I got in a fight with a catarcho. And we ended up fighting in the bathroom of the yard. And after a long fight, I was finally able to take him down, and I was choking him out. He was ready to go, and as I'm laying there on the floor, choking him out, Arandita walks in, and he kind of sizes things up, and then he comes up to him and he tells him, "Let him go." I said, "No, I'm not letting him go." And he walks around again. He comes back and he tells me, "Rodelita, suéltalo, let him go." And I felt that I owed him that respect for what he had done for me. And I told the guy, I says, if not for Arandita, I says, I would have choked you out, and I let him go. And so Arandita not only helped me, but he helped a lot of people. And I can tell you, I know about his case. and it's a crying shame that he's even in prison. So the system isn't fair at all. Now let me say this before I go any further. You know, they talk. There's a lot of talk about President Trump weaponizing the system, but let me say time out. What they're talking about, President Trump, has occurred in 2025. The system was weaponized way before that. It was weaponized against a lot of people that I know, including myself, as far back that I know of in 2014. So even though weaponization is a fairly new term for a lot of folks, it's not a new concept. It's been going on for a long time. And it's just very unjust, the way they've used it. So anyhow, Aranda reaches a point where he tells me, you know, Sheriff, he says, I think I need to go. I said, why do you want to go? He says, you know, I haven't seen my family for a long time. He says, and I think I've paid my dues. I want to go to La Tuna. He says, let's go with me. And I thought to myself, that would really place me a whole lot closer to home. So we both put in what's called a cop-out. We wrote it and requested to be assigned to La Tuna. As it turns out, none of my requests were ever approved. They were all denied. Everything. Didn't matter what I put in for. I was denied. The only thing that I can remember being approved for was going to work at Unicor, and we'll talk about that a little later. But other than that, none of my requests were ever approved. But they approved Aranditas. Now I know that he didn't go straight to La Tuna. I can't remember where he was assigned to, but I know that it was a lot closer to home, and home for him would have been eastern New Mexico, western Texas, but eventually he found himself at La Tuna, which is a camp. There's a camp there, and you know, we've been able to communicate, and you know, my heart just goes out to him because he really didn't do anything. All he did was try and help someone. So he wasn't out there. His intention was not to sell drugs. His intention was not to distribute drugs. What happened is some friends of his came to him with a problem, and he only meant to step in, and he got caught, and he got hit hard because they hit him with a leadership role, and Arandita was doing nothing but just trying to help somebody out, somebody that was in a rough spot. So anyhow, when Arandita left, I kind of closed the ranks, kept a lot more to myself, even though things were fine in there for me. I knew that I probably would never have anyone's support like I had when Aranda was there. So right about this time, and I apologize, even before Aranda left, I was able to talk to a good friend of mine, and this guy made everything happen in prison. And by the way, let me tell you, we see the drug problem out here, but let me tell you, it's not any less in prison. You see people passed out from whatever it may be in the hallways, in their rooms. Inmates and some of the COs have to walk around them or over them. I remember this one guy. He got stuck in a toilet. He passed out, and I mean it was sad, but it was so comical to see what some of these guys do. You know what happens to them. I know of a guy that he passed out with a needle in his arm. So for those people that think, well, you go to prison and you're done. No. There was a guy. He lived across from me at one of the. And this was in unit. This was in Unit 5. He lived. No, I apologize. It It was Unit 7. He lived across from me. He lived across the hall. And this guy, within like a 2-year period, he was able to buy homes. I don't recall if it was 2 or 3 homes, but he was able to buy homes with the money that he was making in there. You know, and you see the drones moving around, you hear them, but you know better, you stay in your own lane, you don't get involved. Sometimes it happened that, you know, I happened to be in a position where, or in a location where I could see what was happening. Man, that drone no sooner got to a window that what was on it was taken, and the drone disappeared. Very, very intelligent people in prison. The way that they think, the things that they're able to do, just mind-boggling. These guys could probably earn a very, very good livelihood out here if they could focus on you know, something else other than being involved in the drug trade. And so anyhow, I stayed in Unit 5, and it was right about then. This sounds like it was like 2020. COVID hit. And once again, I found myself in a day room. And it was in my day room that COVID was first identified. And within 3 days, the first victim in Seagoville, in the Seagoville facility, passed away, and he was in the day room I was in. And it wasn't long before everybody was sick. You know, I had asked the COs to wrap up his linen and stuff and take it out. That stuff sat there for weeks until some of the inmates themselves, you know, gathered it and threw it in the laundry. But what was really interesting is, as people got sick, they started shuffling them around to other units. And it didn't take long for me to realize that what they were trying to do, and when I say they, the administration, is they were trying to create herd immunity. That's a term they use, herd immunity. In other words, you get everyone sick and you get it over and done with. And imagine if we did that in the United States, the amount of people we would have lost. And we lost a lot of people in Seagoville. I mean, you would see them, I'm not going to say on a daily basis, but on a regular basis, you'd see them carrying out the bodies. And the shuffling didn't end. They continued to shuffle people around. If you were sick, they would shuffle you into an area where people were healthy. If you were healthy, they would shuffle you into an area where people were sick. And BOP does what it wants. There's no one that can question him. It seems like it's never happened. I remember there was a period, and it was right about then, that President Trump's son-in-law had gone to visit Seagoville. Man, and we were excited for him to see what was going on. But they kept him from the units. They let him tour the compound, but they didn't let him get into the units. And of course, you know, we knew then, like I know now, they couldn't do that, because he would have had full knowledge of what was going on in there. And that was during President Trump's first term. And I do want to stop there for just a minute. In 2017, I wrote a letter to President Trump. That was during his first term, to tell him about the weaponization of the system, what I had gone through. And I believe to this day, like I did back then, that letter never got to him. Because I believe if he had had a chance to read my letter, he would have understood and prepared for what came at him later on. Nancy, I think we've gone as far as we can, and I know that you've graced me with your presence, and I want to ask you, would you join us one more time and for another episode of ¿Qué pasó?
Sure.
I appreciate it. I want to thank you guys for staying with us and and sharing our story and liking it. I don't know how this ends. I feel that my story needs to be heard. The powers that be, I don't know how they're going to take to it, and that's not really important to me. Again, what's important to me is that people know what happened, because I believe once they understand what happened to me, they can protect themselves, maybe, from being put in the same situation. Now, in the area that I come from, I hear it so many times. You know, I go to Walmart, different places, and people walk up to me with tears in their eyes, and they tell me, "We know exactly what happened to you. We're so sorry." And you know, I've reached a point where basically I thank him. And but my point is this: you know, the only people that don't understand what happened to me are those people that don't want to understand it. Other than that, people understand what happened. I want to take a moment. I don't think I've done this. I want to thank all those people that supported me, that prayed for me. There was people that sent me money, helped my family out during this time. And I can tell you, it was your prayers, it was your thoughts that carried me a lot of that time that I was locked up. Being locked up isn't easy, and it's even made worse when you know you don't deserve to be there. I want to thank you once again, and I ask you to join us on our next episode of ¿Qué pasó? God's blessings.
Condado de Río Arriba, quiero pedirle su apoyo para elegir a este hombre. No se olviden de su nombre en el día de elecciones. Recuerden todos Tommy Rodella.
Este anuncio fue pagado por los muchos amigos de Tommy Rodella.